All right, Jonathan Jones still with us here, but real quick, JJ, the last couple of deadlines have been pretty subtle, nothing crazy. You expect this one to be a little bit uptick in this one?
Maybe, right? I mean, we might. When I was talking with folks yesterday, maybe around this time, nothing was really happening, right? A lot of tumbleweeds. And then as it got into Monday night, folks got a little more optimistic that we might see some deals later on Tuesday. So we'll see how folks wake up today. Did they wake up wanting to make a deal? Do they feel the pressure internally, externally, from ownership? All those things. I know we have been anticipating fireworks. But I don't know that we're going to get the big ones. We might just get the small ones, the ones that the kids can hold in their hands, 4th of July, right? The snakes and the sparklers, instead of the things that go boom.
Let's start with some sparkles maybe in Miami, of course. They had their first deal yesterday with Phillips heading to the Eagles, but chance there may be more selling there with their situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Miami Dolphins now have an interim general manager in Champ Kelly after firing GM Chris Greer. We're a few hours away from the trade deadline. Will they continue to make a move? A lot of eyes have been on edge rusher Bradley Chubb. He should be fairly easy to acquire considering he's being paid just more than $1 million in base salary this year. Matthew Judon, he could be traded for, but honestly, the Dolphins could also cut him and someone could just get him in a week. Minka Fitzpatrick, that trade has not worked out, but the one that we want to talk about here is Jalen Waddle, who is in his mid-20s, under contract throughout his 20s. He is very clearly their top receiving option, not just in 2025, but beyond, because we don't know if and when Tyreek Hill will ever return to the Miami Dolphins. And so, and talking with folks around the league, people believe that the Dolphins would be a little crazy to part ways with Jalen Waddle. The Dolphins are saying we want at least a first-round pick for him, a first and then some. If he gets dealt, I don't know that they're going to get a first and then some. I think it would really ultimately just be a first, maybe 2 twos. We'll see. There are teams in the NFL who are kicking around the idea of trading for Jalen Waddle. Not saying it's going to happen. Not saying it at all, but something that was not possible a week ago, a few days ago, is now at least within the realm of possibility as we have just a few more hours until the trade deadline.
All right, we'll see what happens with the Finns there, one of the worst teams in the AFC. Over in the NFC, the Minnesota Vikings, they just got J.J. McCarthy back, but a chance they may be still looking for QB help there?
They could, right? And let's make something extremely clear. J.J. McCarthy is the starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. That franchise views McCarthy as their long-term starter. However, we know that they need some backup help. Yes, they went out and got John Wolford, with whom he had worked with Kevin O'Connell back when they were with the Rams. They have Max Brosmer. They have some guys there. But if they have playoff aspirations, and knowing the injury history of J.J. McCarthy, certainly last year, but then also dealing with it this year, they may want a real veteran quarterback that they'd have to worry less about should they need to insert him. And so, could there be a guy out there? The only real name that comes to mind that would really move a needle is Russell Wilson. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I want to be clear. I'm not saying that Russell Wilson to the Vikings is going to happen, but could they send a late-round pick somewhere for a veteran quarterback on a cheap deal? They absolutely could do that, so long as it does not threaten J.J. McCarthy's starting status.
Skull Nation, let's ride. I don't think that one works. Let's go to the Packers, what they might be in the market for.
So the Green Bay Packers, after Tucker Kraft tore his ACL on Sunday, a lot of folks thought, oh, they must want a tight end, right? They are clearly in a championship window. They're going to go after a guy like a David Njoku, right? Maybe they call the Baltimore Ravens and see if they're willing to part with Mark Andrews. I'm told that the Green Bay Packers looking to stand pat, that they are probably going to give an increased role to Luke Musgrave, and they like their wide receivers. Of course, as the season turns, they're going to be looking to pound the rock with Josh Jacobs as well. And they love their defense, of course. So also, don't forget, they love their defense so much because they acquired Micah Parsons and gave up significant draft capital in order to get him. And so they're not sending a bunch more draft capital. That's not the Green Bay way, right? They love to build through the draft. So I don't think anything major is going to happen there with the Packers.
All right, let's get to Tennessee with the Titans. Chance they're one of the biggest sellers today.
They are, but while they have been open for business for some time, Brandon, they may no longer be open for business. They may have closed up shop. Look, we have known for some time that anyone with the Titans outside of Jeffrey Simmons could be had. Well, last night the Ravens sent a fifth-round pick that could turn into a fourth to Tennessee in order to acquire Draymond Jones, the edge rusher there. Well, the Titans still need to rush the passer, right? So they're not just going to give away an Arden Key. They're not going to give away a Trevonde Sweat. In fact, I think just a couple of teams were calling on Key. There was more, let's see if they're willing to give away Sweat, and it doesn't seem like the Titans are. And then the last name that you see right there, Calvin Ridley. There are a lot of teams out there who would love a wide receiver, but with his price, and let's just be honest about it, sending away Calvin Ridley, no matter what you think of him, is not going to make the Tennessee Titans offense with #1 pick rookie Cam Ward any better. Cam needs all the help he can get there, especially after losing his offensive play caller and head coach already in his rookie season. So I don't see Calvin Ridley getting moved. I wouldn't be surprised if, after all these weeks of the Titans being open for business, they start turning the sign to close today.
Okay, out in L.A., the Chargers might need some help with Joe Alt, of course, missing some time with that second ankle sprain. What are you hearing about them?
Yeah, unfortunately, down 2 tackles, right? Rashawn Slater out for the season. Joe Alt, he's going to have season-ending ankle surgery after suffering yet another ankle sprain. So the Chargers, remember, a couple weeks ago, they signed Bobby Hart, right? They were in such a bad way that they signed a dude who really hadn't played in the NFL in a couple of years. I don't know that the Chargers are going to find anyone out there on the market. They don't want to give up much draft capital. And there aren't teams who are willing to give up offensive linemen, good ones, right? The whole point of today's NFL is to throw the football and protect the passer. And so if you have a guy who can protect your quarterback, your biggest investment in the entire franchise, you're not going to give that guy away. And you're certainly not going to give him away to help the Chargers in their playoff push. So you're looking around the league, who could be available? The top name would be an Evan Neal, former first-round pick, now with the Giants. Giants very willing to move on from Evan Neal. So we could see potentially someone like him going to a needy team like the Chargers. Of course, the Seattle Seahawks also looking for offensive line help around the way. I do believe if anyone from the Giants has moved, it could be that man right there, Evan Neal.
All right, so the Chargers in the postseason picture. The Steelers also there as well. They've been hovering around maybe a wide receiver 2 next to DK Metcalf. Do they address that today?
They could. They have been sniffing around for some time. They don't love the market that's out there. A lot of teams don't love the wide receiver market that is out there, but they do have plenty of draft picks, almost a dozen, right? You got to figure out with the compensatory picks that they're going to get, the formula gets a little funky, but somewhere around there, right? And they acquired a third rounder for George Pickens, so they have capital. And they have a 41-year-old quarterback who is playing there this year. Maybe he plays there next year. I know the Steelers don't really believe in championship windows necessarily, but doesn't this feel like a year? Not saying the year, but a year, especially after the lack of postseason success for the better part of the decade. So I could see them absolutely finally going after a wide receiver. They've been making calls. They want to do it. It's not a matter of want to, right? Omar Khan has been working the phones. If they can land someone, might they have their eyes on a Jalen Waddle? Whew, be pricey, but in order to acquire Jalen Waddle, it'd be a first-round pick, and if you are the Steelers, you have playoff aspirations. That pick's going to be 22 to 32 anyway, so maybe that's the move.
If you're looking for some offensive weapons, the Saints have a few of those in their roster. Chance we see maybe 1, 2, or 3 on the move from New Orleans.
There was almost zero chance of that up until this week. The Saints have not been willing to move folks. Or I should say they have been willing to move folks, but in talking with people around the league, their asking prices have been outrageous. It's like when you have a yard sale and there's your grandma's brooch, and nobody wants your grandma's brooch, but you really value your grandma's brooch, right? And so no one's willing to accept it. Now, folks are getting realistic. You're over here saying, okay, well, it is a brooch. So Rashid Shaheed is probably the top name that's out there because the Saints really don't want to part with Chris Olave. If someone's going to blow him away with an offer, then sure. But clearly that has not yet happened. Alvin Kamara isn't going anywhere. You can keep going down the list. Could they send away a Demario Davis? Maybe. Cam Jordan, does he want to finish out his career on a losing note in New Orleans, or would he like to join a Super Bowl contender? Those conversations, I'm sure, have been had. If they have not been had, they need to be had in the next few hours. So I could see the Saints, after being very quiet, eerily quiet, suspiciously quiet, the last couple of weeks, finally coming, let's just say it, to their senses and sending a few players away today.
Per usual, JJ, you always have this outline on CBSSports.com leading into the trade deadline, but there's one part I'm just so confused about. What's the correlation with Joe Dirt?
You know, I led this piece about the wildly underrated 2001 film Joe Dirt because he meets a guy at a fireworks stand, and he wants the big fireworks, right? And he's like, hey, man, I got snakes and sparklers because that's what I like. And Joe Dirt's like, hey, man, that's not what the consumer likes. And we are the consumer, right, Brandon? We want the fireworks. We want the things to go boom. But my man Joe Dirt, he was trying to tell him, hey, the snakes and sparklers aren't going to get it done. We may get snakes and sparklers, but I'll just say one team that we haven't discussed yet, the Denver Broncos. You want big things that go boom, fireworks. Fireworks over the Boston Harbor, right? 4th of July. Let's go celebrate it. It's the 4th of November. The Denver Broncos might actually deliver it. They want a pass catcher. There's a pass catcher in Miami. Sean Payton doesn't really care about draft picks, at least first-round draft picks in his history. Look for that team. Just keep an eye on the Denver Broncos when we're talking about things that go boom.
JJ, I'm sorry to tell you, but I got everything you said there with Joe Dirt. This one right here, as you know, our non-movie connoisseur has no idea, has never seen Joe Dirt.
I've heard of the movie before, though, and I know that David Spade is in it.
He's literally looking at Google. I can see his laptop. So if you can, send him a text and maybe a synopsis of the entire movie so he gets it there. But as always, we appreciate it, of course, when it comes to giving us all the dirt before 4 p.m. Eastern. I can see the screen. You need a privacy screen. That's all I'm saying. Hey, look, on Sundays, the conversation continues on NFL Today, per usual with the fellows there. James Brown, and of course, they're always the suited and booted. Everybody, nice suits. Send us one. Sundays at 12 Eastern on CBS and also
Serious,
streaming.
not jokes.
Oh, yeah. Paramount Plus.